computer password so easily lost. I can't even remember how much gas and oil cost. I think it's a lot. Then I get into my car and I back down the drive, but I cannot remember. Did I just leave or arrive? I take the car for repairs, but I brought the wrong car. The mechanic shakes his head saying, "You know where you are?" I wash dinner dishes, but I forget to use soap. Yes, I have to agree with those who call me a dope. But I too truly remember what we're doing this time. But while my memory is back, I still struggle finding words that will rhyme. For the light bulb has gone on. I know it's a family reunion this day. Could I ever forget that? Of course not. No way. With a gathering of family and special friends too, we will walk through great memories before we are through. Yes, a gathering of family. What joy does that mean? That faded, failed memory is gone. Before me a wonderful scene. For of life's many pleasures, there is none that comes close to be surrounded by friends and family, the people I love the most. I'm not finished. I think it might get a little worse. As you know, when I wrote the Welcome House story, I was reluctant to get into it. Thought it was a bit too personal and I wasn't quite sure how to approach it. But then when I heard from different people in the Penridge area that Welcome House was like Welcome Wagon, that Welcome House was a bed and breakfast, that Welcome House, this was a real kicker, was a home for unwed mothers. I also heard a lot of, never heard of it, I don't know. So that prompted me to go ahead. I felt our parents deserved to have an accurate record of the things they did for us. And so I went ahead and took my pen in hand, and the Welcome House book is the result. The two editions have presented almost now 2,500 books into the public arena. And I tell you this, it's not in any way, I hope, boastful to you. What I'm trying to do is just tell you that the story of Welcome House is a story that people appreciate. I'm preparing a third edition, which I hope will be published in the fall. I've also just completed my 70th lecture discussion about the Welcome House story. 2 of them were with church congregations of 500 or more. Quite a few were with groups of 100. And then I had a lot of service clubs, Rotary Club type things. And then the biggest number of groups I met with were book clubs. But all of it, I kept a running tabulation. So all of it adds up to 70 times I was with people. And again, a guesstimate, it has to have reached over 5,000 people, which was sort of the goal I had in mind when I started the book. A number of questions come up on a regular basis. I'll share them with you quickly. One is, do you stay in touch with the Welcome House children? Whenever I hear that question, it's sort of, my first reaction is a little bit of anger, I guess. I mean, I want to say to the person, do you have brothers and sisters? Well, do you stay in touch with them? I never have said to them, that's a stupid question. Second question I heard quite often, were you and Charlotte jealous or resentful that these new children were coming in and maybe taking away some of the love and attention or whatever of your parents. And the question was asked different ways, but that's in essence what the question was. And when I first heard it, my first reaction was, well, Mother and Dad were so capable at parenting, so good at doing what they did. You know, they had enough love for a lot more than the 12 of us. But then as I thought about it, and I kept getting the question different times, it came to me that what the person is really saying, and they were sort of giving me a pat on the back and saying, you're really good to try to help these unfortunate children. And then it dawned on me, I have received so much more from Welcome House, and I have given a few examples, and I could talk about this the rest of the afternoon. A few examples. When David, and then Leon, and then Sumi, the first three of our Welcome House children came. I mean, what joy they brought. It was truly a joyous moment. And Paul, Adam, Jack.
Paul.
It kept going in that direction. And then, of course, Bobby came. He was a little older. The toddlers were joined by Mrs. Bud and Matt.
Judy and Dale. Yeah. Woodward.
I can't tell.
It's okay, Dale. Susie and Dale Woodland.
It's people from Welcome House.
Yeah.
Okay, well, when Bobby joined, of course, Pearl Buck herself had some questions about Bobby because he came from a troubled background. He told me when I was doing some research for the book, he was so naughty in his previous homes that he was never allowed to have visitors. That was the punishment for children that were bad. So Bobby had a history that needed to be dealt with. And the way Welcome House responded brought Bobby to be what he has become. And I think it's a wonderful example. And again, brought joy to Dale. Frank, Lillian, and Ray came together from Detroit, actual biological brothers and a sister. And I have to confess, my first reaction when Pearl Buck came and told us that we were getting 3 new children, ages 11, 13, and 15, I had pause. Is this going to work? We have a Welcome House family that's thriving and happy. What will older children with a past life, maybe different values, a whole host of questions were in my mind. Of course, I didn't express them. I wasn't in a position to do that. And my parents, I don't know if they had them, but they never even said, well, let's think about it. They said, of course. Well, I feel guilty now that I had these thoughts. Frank, Lillian, and Ray came, and immediately they fit into the family. Immediately, there was no problems. And the crowning moment for me, this was summertime before I was going to be going into my sophomore year in high school. Frank was going into his freshman year. And Dad said, I think you should take Frank and have him meet a bunch of the fellows who will be his classmates, teammates, schoolmates. So we set up this meeting at Menlo Park in Perkins. We were going to go have a swimming out. But we arrived late. Frank is never late. He's always on time. So I don't know why we were late. I guess you can figure it out. But because we were late, as we're walking out on the edge of the pool, I'm ready to give my introductions. And whoosh! Frank gets shoved into the pool. And of course, at that age, that's a very unceremonious macho reduction. And I'm in the water starting to mutter, how am I going to explain this? When splash. My attacker ended up right next to me, muttering like me. And I looked up on the pool stage. There was Frank, smiling, shyly smiling. He didn't know anybody, but he had responded in my behalf. And I said to myself, I have a protector. I have a friend. I have a brother. And for the next 5 years, until Frank went off to the Coast Guard, we couldn't have been closer. We did everything together. We played sports together. Well, we never went on dates together.
That's because Frank went on.
Frank was advanced, I was a little behind. But at any rate, you know, Frank, we never had an argument. It was partly because I looked at his muscles and I knew if I got into any trouble with him, I was dead weak. But how special was that for me? And of course, Scott came. He adds the same level of joy to the family. I have to tell you, Ray has moved up the street from us. Just well, maybe 5 golf shots down the street now from me. And he's gonna, every time I need something to be done, there's Ray at my side.
He's ready to move.
Are you hearing this, Uncle Ray?
I've told him, he knows.
Dad's giving you a good...
Yeah, but he didn't tell you he's ready to move though.
My last example, and then I'll get out of here. When I wrote the book, I told the story. I'm going to read it. Pearl Buck called my parents. She knew us through my dad having been a summertime mentor for her young children. And so she called and she asked to meet with my parents. And so it was December of 1948. And they went off to meet with Pearl Buck. And then they came back with some things to share. My dad said it was a potentially life-changing moment. I'll never forget it. My dad said that Mrs. Walsh had spoken of many things, but central to her comment was a sad tale of 2 unwanted Asiatic American children, and probably many others as yet unknown to her. She said that something had to be done for these unfortunates. My dad went on to say that Mrs. Walsh felt we were the finest family she had ever encountered, that my sister was an amazing and talented young woman. Here, of course, she can sometimes be wrong. And I was the best little boy she knew.
I had to live with this best little boy.
She was convinced that our family, well-adjusted and secure, could assume responsibility for the family that would take, that we would become the family that would take in these lovable but unloved ones. Not just take them in, but help to plan for their needs and their future. I confess now, because my parents said we have to get your approval for you to say yes to this. Well, my sister and I joined in our parents' enthusiasm for that idea within a second or two. Well, Bobby came in. We had a book signing at a Welcome House, or actually a Pearl Buck International celebration. He came in and we were all together there. And then he took 20 books back to Ohio with him, wanted to share them with his friends and his wife family. And about a week after he went back, he got this envelope with Bobby Yoder's address. I remember